Hi, I'm Susan Anderson. Welcome back to my long arm studio. I'm going to be showing you how I load my frame for my QMP 18.
When loading your frame, you're going to start with the backing fabric first. I have removed the leader from my backing bar and taken my fabric to my sewing machine and basted them using the longest stitch on my machine. I've also stitched a 0 center tape measure to all my leaders. The tape measure aids when I'm stitching the fabric to the different leaders. I can make sure they start and stop at the same point. Make sure you have the wrong side of the fabric up. Throw your backing fabric over top of your quilt take-up bar. Match the center of your leader to the center of your backing bar and Velcro in place. You want to make sure that you lay the fabric across the quilt take-up bar nice and smooth before you start to roll onto your backing bar. Continue to roll your backing to your backing bar until you've reached your first leader. Slide the leader under your stationary bar and attach it to your quilt take-up bar. Remember to match your centers. Before I add the batting and the quilt top, I'm going to make sure that I've got a nice even tension on my quilt backing. Now, I have purchased a second hand wheel that I've attached to my backing bar that allows me to roll the quilt backing forward and backward to the take-up bar and the quilt back bar until I get it nice and smooth and even tension. Next, you're ready to go ahead and load your quilt top to your quilt top bar. Now, I don't baste this quilt top to my leader. I prefer to pin it. I find it's easier when doing an edge to edge, even with borders, to release the pins when I get to this point as opposed to releasing the basting stitch. Once you've finished your pinning of the quilt top to the leader, go ahead and lay the quilt top spaced nice and smooth across your take-up bar. Now you're ready to roll your quilt top to the quilt top bar. This is going to give you a little bit of a drag that's going to make this roll nice and easy. Now I'm ready to load my batting. Simply pull the batting between the quilt top and the quilt back bar, or you can put the quilt top bar into the resting position to load your batting. Make sure you have the right side of the batting up. Once I have the batting into position nice and smooth and up against my leader, I'm now ready to run a basting line holding the backing and the batting together that my quilt top will line against to be nice and straight on my quilt frame. When running your basting stitch, you have options. You can use your horizontal channel lock, but I prefer to use my move feature. I'm going to go to Pro Stitcher tab. I'm going to select the baste option and I'm going to select Move. Make sure on the right-hand side of your screen you select Continuous and Stitch. Then you're going to select the direction you want to stitch. Continue to stitch until you get completely to the end of your fabric, and then stop. I'm now ready to attach my quilt top to the batting and backing fabric. Starting in the upper left corner, I've attached my glide foot, or you could use the square foot option, to run a basting stitch 1/4 inch from the raw edge. Now use your Move vertical feature and baste down both sides of the quilt top. I've also marked the edge of my quilt with blue painter's tape to help align the quilt as I advance. The last step in loading your frame is to baste across the very top of your quilt top, making sure that the edge of the fabric is against the stitching line of your first basting stitch. Bring your foot 1/4 inch in again from the raw edge so that when you attach your binding, the basting stitch will be covered. You won't have to rip it out. That's how I load my Janome QMP quilt frame. Check out some of my other videos for tips and tricks for sewing, quilting, and crafting.